Well, howdy yet again, YouTube. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, part 2 of our Building a New Deck series, or a porch, whatever you want to call it. So, we had a really good response on the last video, and I'm glad we did. I know you guys are used to, and ladies are used to, I had a bit of fuzz on my microphone there, that's odd. I know y'all are used to IT-related videos, and we're going to get back to those. But, you know, Unky Joe's Playhouse is also where I share what happens at Unky Joe's Playhouse. So, as you can see, my office is currently a total catastrophe because we have been focused like a laser beam on getting some work done outside before it gets too hot in South Texas to work outside. And that'll come around, end of May, beginning of June. It gets really hot outside. Hey, look, what's that on the floor? Is this something for an upcoming video? I don't know. You'll have to come back and check it out. So, anyway, enough of my babbling. Let's get on with part 2 of the deck build. Alrighty then. So here is part 2 of the deck building. And this is where things start to get a little complicated. Because you see, I am an impatient carpenter. This is why I don't make a good carpenter. You see that cut we just put in there? I measured that. And of course I got impatient and measured it wrong. So I know my limitations. And at this point, I handed the cuts over to Jerry from this point on. And fortunately for me, Jerry is much better and has much more patience when it comes to measuring angles and all that kind of stuff than I am. Which is why we work so well together. You know, Jerry's a patient, non-impulsive kind of person when it comes to projects like this, and he's logical and methodical, and sometimes it drives me insane how methodical he can be, but I've learned to just kind of let Jerry do his thing. He's smart in his own right, and this is what it takes to work successfully with other people, is for you to lose your ego. You don't know everything, and I certainly don't know everything. I mean, hell, my career is based on the fact that I've learned everything I know from other people, and so would your career be. So when I give Jerry a task, I task Jerry with making this board fit. I said, I suck at measuring and cutting, so I'm going to let you do it. Now, you'll see he gets started. You'll see how methodical he is and how many times he measures, how many lines he draws. You'll see all that coming up here in a minute as we get ready to put the last deck board in. And we sat and we talked about it for a while about how we were going to do that. And once we came to a consensus, then he went to work. So, and again, Jerry is almost 20 years younger than I am, but I keep up with him pretty well. Now here's where we took a little break and came back out fresh. It's late in the afternoon, it's about 4 o'clock. The sun is just brutal on this side of the house. I'm putting on some more sunscreen there just to protect it. Now, you're going to watch me wander around and just be patient. Not something I'm good at. I usually have to be doing something. So while he's over there and I'm trying not to bother him, letting him take his careful measurements, I am thinking about the next 12 things I need to be doing, and or I'm just enjoying my time outside. So as Jerry moves along and makes these measurements, you'll see how close we were on this fit the first time. Now here's where experience comes in. Jerry was cutting the board, and as thinly as we were cutting this board, I said, hey, let's do this first. Let's do it this way. Let me hold the board, because you know you run the risk on a 10-foot board of it splitting when you see how shallow those cuts were. Now here's our first attempt at installing it, and it was, with the exception of that one we're at right now, it would have gone in. But I said, hey, let me do a little trim cut on this end piece, and bingo, there's the final hammer hit that got it in. And then we drilled out the boards on either side before we put screws in them. So I was going around drilling out the pilot holes just to keep the deck board from splitting once we put some screws in it. And voila, this is what teamwork gets you. So we were able to get this whole thing decked out this afternoon. And now the fun part begins. We're going to get started on the railings. And there was a bit of a miscommunication with Jerry and I on the railings. Now I've slowed it down to normal speed so you can see how fast we actually work. And so we're talking as we're moving around, and sun is beating down on us. I think at this point Jerry needed a water break. So I told him take some time, go cool off. I was going to do some measurements, was testing something. And when he comes back, we'll get started on the railing. And all the railing are going to be 2x4s between the 4x4 posts. And then we have some what I call pickets, which are just balusters, pickets. You call them whatever you want. But they're the small pieces that go in between the rails. And of course, Maddie May is inspecting her new porch. She wants to come play with her daddy. In fact, I was so oblivious to my work, or to what was going on around me, I didn't even know she was there until my spouse brought her up and had me give her a little kiss. And that's how I tend to be when I'm working. I get really, really focused on the task at hand. So here Jerry is measuring and cutting the rails, and he told me, no, that rail goes down there. Now we had a bit of a miscommunication because the upper rail, when he measured, he took an incorrect measurement based on my recommendation, and you'll see me here saying, oh, wait a minute, no, it wasn't that long, it was this long. So communication is very important, but 2x4s are fairly inexpensive, and we'll use them as skirting somewhere else, so it was no big deal. So now what we're doing, he's double checking the measurement before he cuts that 2x4 again, making sure that we have the right length. And I'm bringing pickets over and starting to mount the lower board. So I had cut some blocks 4 inches, and one on the bottom was 3 inches, and so that we'd have even spacing between the pickets. And we chose a side to start from, marked out a level line so we knew where the top of the pickets would be. That way we knew where to mount the top rail on the 2x4, the top rail. So I'm putting my little blocks that I cut earlier to give us an equal spacing from the bottom. And then I'm pre-drilling pilot holes before we put the screws in. That way they won't split the 2x4s. And then Jerry is kind of dry fitting the upper rail, just making sure it's going to fit while I come along and do the pilot holes, 2 pilot holes in each 2x4, and then 2 deck screws. And the railings are going to be up to code. We don't have to build to code out here, but why not? I mean, there's a reason there's railing heights and safety standards. I don't want anybody to get injured on my property standing on, something that I built. It creates a liability. So I always build to code. That way somebody can't come back later and sue you and say, well, you never did it right. You know what I'm saying? People like to sue. So, and I think all told on this part of the project was we spent probably about an hour getting the railing on. It was the last thing we did for the day. And I'm getting them mounted here in place. We had lines. It makes your life a whole lot easier if you have reference lines as you go. That way I was able to eyeball it and keep it level, keep it plumb, and get the railings put in properly. Now, one other problem we ran into, even though we had brand new drill bits, by the time I got to this post, I was having a ton of trouble getting it to drill a hole, so we went with a little bit larger size bit because I don't have a bit sharpener around. And these were Jerry's drill bits we were using. I felt bad wearing out one of his drill bits already before he even got to use them. But like he said, he bought those tools, or he got those tools to work on projects. So he didn't mind, and I'll replace his drill bits if we need to. But these are just things that you have to be prepared for. Your drill bits are going to wear out. The deck boards, or the deck screws we got, are Torx bit because they're so much easier. If you've ever tried to put in Phillips head deck screws, you'll know how easy they strip out. We haven't had that problem with the Torx screws. Now, we were laying out the pickets here, and even though they were evenly spaced top and bottom, we didn't plumb them. And so I got about 8 pickets on and stood back and I said, this thing is leaning to the right. And what we had forgot to do is we only use a spacer on the bottom, and then on the top we put a level and mark and get our picket plumb, so straight up and down, side to side and up and down. And then only use the 4-inch spacer on the bottom. So once we learned that lesson, then we moved on. And like I say, if I was a professional deck builder, I would know that. But I've built 2 or 3 decks in my entire life, and all of them have been wrong in one way or another. They functioned, they lasted, but they were not built properly, as you know. But by watching other people build them and working with professionals, because what I finally ended up doing was hiring professionals, not so much to do the work, but to teach me how to do the work. And if you watch people and you shut your mouth, you learn tips and tricks from builders that they can't really teach you. You have to watch them do it. And so this idea of spacers and that kind of thing I got from watching another guy build my front porch, which we're going to have another video on as well. But I just, I wanted to share that with you. Experience is not something you can go to school and get. It's something, this is why they have journeymen electricians and carpenters and plumbers, because it's not really something you can teach in a school. You've got to go work with the professionals, learn their tips and tricks, and a lot of them aren't willing to share it. You just have to watch and take mental notes. My last contractor didn't speak much English, but I spoke a little Spanish. But he taught me a lot, and I learned a lot of Spanish, and he learned a lot of English, and we had fun working together. And he was a hard worker, and I was his assistant, and that's how we sided. That was Lewis, if you ever saw those videos on residing the house. And so now here we are finishing up, and the spouse is coming in inspecting. And this is probably the second time my spouse has been proud of something I built, other than the shed I built in the backyard. And so here we are cleaning up. I don't like leaving a work site and not putting my tools away, so we're just finishing up here and admiring our work and kind of enjoying the day and explaining where the rest of the railing is going. We still have 2 more rails, and then we have the stair handrails as well to put in. But that's for another day. So there you go. Not exactly soup to nuts, but I'm not into those kind of videos anyway. You see how we got everything put together, and in the end, well, it's not the end yet. We still have more railings. We have to fix the stairwell, that kind of thing. And I'm going to record all that. Well, my surveillance camera is going to record it, and then I'm going to recompile it and compress it and edit it and share it with you here on YouTube. Now, we've also got another project going on outside at the same time, and that is my front porch, which you have seen in several videos. However, my front porch was not built very well, and I'm going to allude to that in the next video that I show you on it, and what we had to do to overcome it and fix it to keep it from collapsing, because it was pretty close to collapse, the roof that is. So I'm going to show you what we had to do to get around that, and it's a good thing that we caught it when we did, because it could have been ended very badly. But anyway, we hope you found this video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below if you liked it. Leave your comments. Have you ever built anything like this? Don't let it intimidate you. Just take your time with a little bit of knowledge and patience and asking the right questions and buying the right lumber and put a little sweat equity into your home, as we call it down here. You too can build a porch or a deck and save yourself a lot of money hiring professionals to do it. You can still hire professionals to help you. They will consult with you for a fee. So that's another way to do it. Or hire a professional and offer to be their gopher. And you will see their price come down substantially as to their day labor rate. That's what I've done in the past. And see where it gets you. But anyway, thanks again for watching. And please don't forget that we will see you on the other side.